Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining. I am really passionate about moving outside, moving in sports, and supporting people who want to do that, and utilizing some awesome recovery tools to make your movement last a lifetime. So I'm going to start with a slideshow. The arc of this session, we are going to start with a little bit of a slideshow where I'm going to talk through some important concepts that I think are really crucial to what I've learned about working with athletic and big movers over time. And then I will certainly talk more specifically about the human anatomy, fascia in particular, body work, and get really kind of tactical about what is body work, how to utilize it, what it does, how to choose a good body worker, and things like that. And then we're going to wrap up with some actual manual therapy, which is what we call it, where I'm going to show you some really simple techniques that you can do using just your hands and your forearm and your elbow. So if at any time you have questions or comments, please feel free to put them either in the chat or the Q&A, and I will be happy to answer. So here we go. Okay. Okay. Nope. Let's just do this. Awesome. All right. So I am actually here at Rocksteady right now at the base of the Wasatch, where we just got a nice dusting of snow, which is super exciting for most of us backcountry skiers and snowboarders. And what is body work? Particularly, I'm going to be speaking about the type of body work that is contact-based. So body work in general includes a wide array of modalities that can be offered by a licensed massage therapist, a chiropractor, your PT, or other people in the wellness world. Specifically today, I'm going to be speaking about body work in a general setting, replying mostly to advanced manual therapy techniques, which are oftentimes going to be applied by a very seasoned massage therapist. And one of the ways we distinguish ourselves and our skill set is by referring to it as body work. So this is not about a spa massage, about Swedish massage. Body work is going to utilize a couple of different techniques and tools that actually alter the structure, the physical structure of your tissues and cells in order to enhance the function of those tissues and cells. So right here, you can see some examples of what it looks like. This is pre-Cirque series, a big trail running race up the mountains in the Wasatch. You can see some fascial stretching and joint mobilizations that I'm doing, and also some hands-on body techniques. Why body work? In general, body work is like an adaptogenic herb, just a positive, always useful, always beneficial supplement that enhances your functionality as a human. So when I say functionality, I mean it reduces tension in your muscles, it increases circulation, which is going to help you with bringing nutrition and hydration into some of those more dehydrated and therefore isolated or desert areas in your body. Any place where you have chronic tension or pain, there's a lack of blood flow, a lack of hydration, and then what you have is waste building up, which only perpetuates the pattern. So we're going to ease muscle pain, relieve tension, increase blood flow. This is going to let every cell in your body work better. So when we get blood flow in and waste out, and hydration and nutrition in and waste out, every cell can revert to its primary function. So, you know, in yogic terms, we would call this prana, like a life vitalizing experience where you feel more alive after body work than before. It improves joint mobility. It's going to help you with your sleep. It manages your endocrine system, your hormones. It helps with your biochemistry. It's going to affect your immune system. So, you know, the benefits are far reaching, and we'll cover those in more detail. Next slide. Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about movement and movement ecology before we dive in any deeper. Based on my experience with most of the professional athletes I work out, the avid amateur athletes, the competitive people, um, I want to talk about movement on both the macro and micro levels. So if you look here, when we look in nature, forces are affecting nature all the time. And we are organic living matter made up of the same basic elements as any other living entity on the planet. So these forces are primarily invisible, such as in this picture, you can see this is really extreme effect of a certain wind flow in New Zealand. And what you can see is that the wind itself is an invisible force that is pretty sustained. And over time, it's completely altered the shape of these trees. Closer to home here in Utah, you can see hoodoos, which again are evidence of the way that the natural and invisible forces around us, including wind, sun, gravity, are going to affect and shape these structures. Lastly, I have this plant here because as human beings, very similar to plants, we started as that cell and sperm connect. So from one cell, every single varied aspect, part, and piece of you developed, very much like a plant from a seed. And the way the plant turns towards the light, for human beings, what shapes our bodies are the invisible forces of all the movements we do and all the movements we don't do with gravitational force acting on us at all times, okay? So how and why does that matter? Because we are actually in what I call a crisis of captivity, where we are moving less than we ever have before in the history of human development. If you think, thousands of years, humans have been hunters or gatherers or agrarian, where we're mostly moving most of the time, okay? So in the modern day world, we have this crisis of captivity, and what that means is active people, those who consider themselves active, are moving only 4% more than sedentary people. Sedentary people being the ones who just don't exercise at all. And then between our big bouts of activity, so let's say you go climb and you're doing an overnight mish. So you've got, 24 to 72 hours of sustained movement over time. Or you're a backcountry skier and you're going out for a 6-hour mission. Or you're just conditioning. So you're doing your 1, 2, or 3 hours of movement per day. At the end of the day, when you're not exercising or in the sport of your choice, you are in this one common sedentary position that we find here in the Western world called that 90-degree flex and sit position, yeah? So you take that with you to your desk, to your car, to your TV, and then you lay down. So this is where we have this new category of individuals where we start to see that even those who move a lot, let's say you exercise or you're in your sport, 5 hours 3 times a week, or 8 hours 4 times a week, you're still moving 24 to 30 hours, which is only going to put you at a 20% period of movement across all of the available hours across the span of a week. So how we look at this is we take average Americans are exercising an hour a day, 7 days a week, which is going to give us that 4%. Like I'm saying, most of you guys are probably a little bit higher, but even if you are moving or exercising 30 hours a week, there's still 168 hours in a week. And what are you moving or not? Because that is going to shape you. So we're in this strange period of planetary adaptation where most of us are either moving at high intensity for extended periods of time, and then we go from 60 to 0, and we take this seat somewhere, okay? So that pendulum swing from really high activity to really low activity, where we rest most of the time, creates some really specific issues of the tissue for those individuals who want to be active and athletic and enjoy their sport over a long time. One of the main things that happens is, as I mentioned, movement, the movement you make and you don't make shapes you. So as we see people looking at their little phones more and more, and then sitting in those chairs, you're going to have these long-term systemic shaping of your very basic structure. You might be familiar with this as postural deviations. So the thing is, most of us who are active humans also have some basic postural deviations based on our sedentary and technology-based lifestyle that alter the relationship of gravity to our body. And this one is the best because his head just falls off. And who feels like that sometimes, where you have been looking at your phone all day and then you go for an 18-mile run and your head and neck and traps are just killing you. So what I want to make clear is that for athletes or big movers, big mountain movers like this, you're taking your resting posture, your resting inadequacies or your compensations or your gravitational degeneration in your structure with you into your movement patterns. And what that can do is it can create faulty movement patterns that create excessive wear and tear and can shorten the time that you can do what you love without the aftermath of all the pain and strain. So I'm putting this slide in because a lot of Americans, and here in the Western world, what I see happen a lot is when I talk about movement, we tend to think of it primarily as exercise, your strength training, your cardio. Some people are going to include stretch, maybe some yoga or martial arts or dance. Primarily, people are moving fairly intensely for extended periods of time and consider that their movement diet. I'm proposing, and this is, there's not a lot of research in this world of the anthropology of movement, or as we start to look at human and human bodies. Exercise is just a really small category of movement. Sports, athletics, exercise in that purple circle. And then humans, over most of our history on the planet, we're mostly moving most of the time. So think hunter-gatherers, tribes in the Amazon. Before technology, there is so much work to be done during the day that demanded movement. And research is indicative that pre-tech era, pre-industry era, we were moving about 8 hours a day every day versus maybe the 2 to 3 that we get today. Movement is inclusive of breathing. It is digestion. There are so many basic fundamental life vitals that require movement. And when your body kind of congeals and at the very micro level, you start to lose mobility, maybe in between the tissue, the epithelial tissue in your lungs, it can create really big issues. So first and foremost, let's expand our movement diet and start to get really creative. So leave behind that sedentary seated position, that 90-degree flex, and vary it up. Maybe sit on the floor, get a standing desk, vary the way you sit, try squatting, try kneeling, bring in or expand the way that you move. Holding things, holding children, climbing and pulling. And the big takeaway is to diversify or widen the ways that you move, okay? When we talk about movement in my world, what I'm really focused on is the patterning that happens to your body when you're here a lot and then go into big movement, yeah? So we're more interested in moving you at the micro level. Most of you are getting some big dynamic movement through running or skiing or basketball, whatever your sport are. Now it's time to talk more on the micro level, looking at what happens when we have areas of your body that are fluid and moving well, right next to an area that's actually cellularly sedentary. So cellular sedentariness is your hamstrings and glutes are prime examples because they're under sustained compression for long periods of time as you sit in your chair. If you're sitting, you may want to stand up and move around or just sit cross-legged or just move yourself. There's deserts in your body that are dehydrated and malnourished due to the fact that that specific area of your body is getting very little movement. That's where bodywork can come in, and we can get deep into all of those sedentary areas and literally move them back to life. So we're going down the funnel, we're getting closer to bodywork, and I want to talk a little bit about human anatomy. And I'm going to start with something I call old world anatomy or mechanical anatomy. When in the Western world, we started to look at anatomy through dissections, we were coming from this Newtonian physics perspective, this Newtonian view of the world where everything was reduced down to its very smallest part and related to from the analogy of a machine. So mechanical anatomy is where we dissect a human body, pull it apart, find the littlest, smallest parts and pieces, label them, see how they're connected, and then put them back together. So we get this very machine-based or robotic idea about human anatomy. And we translate that into how we think about movement. And an old idea of anatomy and human movement was muscles move bones. Bones act as a lever, muscles act as a pulley. So this is fairly useful for learning anatomy and understanding all the little parts. However, the human body doesn't work that way, and original anatomy or mechanical anatomy is great for learning about the parts of the body. It does very little to explain the way a human body moves when it's alive. So the new anatomy that science is discovering and really supporting, that a lot of the Eastern modalities and bodywork have had experiential knowledge and application of for millennia, is called synergetic interconnectedness. So it's about fascia. That's the original pronunciation is fascia. I tend to say fascia, it's the American in me. So fascia is the matrix in which every single cell of your body is suspended. It is fractile, dynamic, diverse. It is interwoven, interdependent, comprehensive. It wraps from your skin in, around, through every layer and level of your body, from the macro to the micro. It creates this interconnectedness, so everything works together, and it's synergistic. That means that everything moves together. So very much like this orange down here, or like the plant that I showed earlier in this screen, you started out as egg and sperm that met, and then all of the variable aspects of your tissue, your muscles, your connective tissue, your tendons, your ligaments, everything grew out of one whole. Just like this orange, where all of the diversification of the parts are a systemic result of the whole, okay? So this has really interesting applications for the way that we move as humans. And everything is connected, but in very specific ways. A lot of times people will come in for body work and it seems like, people are becoming a lot more aware of the whole premise, everything is connected. Yet that can be somewhat nebulous and vague and leaving us without much access to making intentional or critical shift or change. Enter in the fact that everything is connected in very specific ways. So as you see here, we've got some images of fascia. This is actual fascia over here, as it connects layers of skin to deeper layers of muscle. And these levels of connectivity are referred to as myofascial meridians or anatomy trains, which was a body of work created by Tom Myers, who is a structural integration massage therapist and has done some of the most groundbreaking work on the scientific and anatomical knowledge around fascia. What you see here is fascia in a living body, which in the last 5 years, we've been able to capture live imagery of fascia in a live body working. And it is fractile, it's tensile, it moves, it shifts, it changes shape, and it's incredibly hydrated and very well connected. As athletes and people dedicated to your own wellness, we're all probably quite aware of cardio, strength, and stretch. Now, in body work and what we're looking at when we start to look at the shape of your body, and your tissue health, we're looking at hydration and connectivity. Fascia is one of the most highly innervated tissues outside your brain. It is literally the direct link and connect of your brain to your body. It is a hydroelectric connectivity current throughout your entire body. So when your fascia is dehydrated or stuck, whether your muscles are strong or pliable or stretchy really doesn't matter if the nerve can't activate that specific aspect of your body, okay? So these myofascial meridians are really useful when we start to look at patterns of strain or pain or wear and tear and move into a more global and holistic approach to resolving issues and also to preventing them. The myofascial meridians that we're looking at here, I've got a couple up for you. They have specific names and every body has them, okay? So when you dissect a human body along lines of fascial connection, this piece of tissue comes off the body in one full piece. So from the inner arch of your foot, going up through your inner shin, lacing all the way out to your outer IT band, and then across the body through your obliques, all the way around to behind your shoulder blade and up the neck. And then over here on the lateral line, we see the same thing. These meridians connect across the entire expanse of your body from foot to head and from finger to finger. What that means is there's this very clear connected continuation of force distribution across that meridian. So no part of you moves without the other part of you moving. And we say in bodywork, where it isn't. Most often where you're experiencing pain or dysfunction is not localized. And of course, we want to deal with a local strain or pain and relieve that. However, for you to progress, for you to move beyond being a body that has chronic pains that occur every season, moving you from, oh, that's my bad knee, or oh, my tight neck, into a person that has full elasticity, pliability, and powerful movement patterns that leave you able to move really dynamically in your full expression without lingering issues, we have to look and treat your entire myofascial meridian. So there's many of these in the human body, and it's really useful for treatment. We have so many issues here with the back line where runners or backcountry skiers, climbers, this whole back line gets affected. We have a lot of people saying, oh, my hamstrings are so tight. And yet with that forward head position here up in your cervicals, many people are adding excessive strain by that forward head position where the entire back line is affected. So we take this into the way we move, and you can see these are very intuitive. As you look at them, it's easy to make the link. Oh, my takeaway here is, oftentimes people will say, my neck. And when you look at this deep front line, your deep pelvic floor and low core are tethered to your neck. So oftentimes with that flexed position that we sit in for so long, that hydroelectric current can get disrupted. No matter how strong your core is, if it's not linked, because that link has been compressed and therefore the current isn't strong, you can be strong in parts and pieces and have no capacity to access that strength in movement patterns. So chronically for runners, I see really weak pelvic floor. Okay. Great. So between fascia, the human body, the myofascial meridians, and movement on the macro and micro level and the way it affects you, where we arrive when we're in the crisis of captivity in the modern world, where we're moving less than we ever have in less ways and spending very limited time moving, and usually in the realm of exercise, it's time, the way to counteract that is to utilize some powerful antidotes that can bridge the gap, unless you can quit your job and get a patch of land and become a hunter-gatherer again, which would be cool, and invite me, I'll come visit you. So, you know, beyond what you can do to diversify your movement diet at home, and if you can start to bring in more fascially balanced movement like yoga and Pilates, bodywork is the fast track because it's the antidote. You want to start thinking of this like nutrition, a necessary consideration for overall health and a critical component of the active recovery required to keep your athletic performance at peak over time. So to fill the need, the cellular hunger your body has for the mechanotransduction, that actual push and press and squish that comes from movement at the macro and micro level, you need diverse, varied movement and lots of it consistently over time. If you can't make that happen, getting a highly concentrated dose of dynamic, multiplanar, deep tissue bodywork is just like a nutritional supplement. It's going to help you fill the gap and enhance the functionality of every system in your body. Bodywork does all of these things. It's an infusion of nutrient-dense movement that rebuilds and rebalances fascia. It's going to increase spatial awareness, interoception, proprioception, and sensory system. So those are big words. And I want you to think about, you know, we're moving less and less ways, and we also have, due to technology, some incredible tools that are making us more comfortable than ever, except causing a big crisis for our cellular health and our overall well-being. Most of us have been wearing shoes since the day we were born. In your body, the places with the most joints are the places that are meant to have the most movement. When you cast your foot and take away its capacity to move, things higher up the chain have to adapt around that. Because of, when I'm looking at the sensory system and proprioception and interoception and spatial awareness, your kinesthetic ability, so your five senses, your ability to see, to smell, to taste, to regulate temperature, used to be managed fully by yourself in relationship to the first world of nature. So if you're a climber or a backcountry skier or a runner, you are getting a lot of healthy input for your nervous system from simply being outside. But most of us are spending a lot of time where our nervous system, our sensory nervous system, simply doesn't have to do that. And when we're looking at flat screens all the time, our eyesight doesn't have to take in depth, variability, right? So spatial awareness, your actual ability to orient your body in relationship to the space around it, both above, below, and to the sides, atrophies the same way muscle or collagen or fascia does when it doesn't get exposure to dynamic movement and to nature. In bodywork, we are going to give you a deep infusion of that. We stretch your entire body and multiple planes of the body all at once. So we're working globally. The way that the myofascial meridians work in your body is the way we work on your body. We vary the vectors. This is crucial for fascial health. As you see, it is a dynamic cobweb-like substance that's fractile, and it has many different surfaces and is multidimensional. So for that complex matrix, we want to move it in many different ways. In addition to deep tissue bodywork, structural integration, the type of bodywork we offer here, whole body dynamic movement also reconditions fascia and neutralizes the postural deviations that come from that 0 to 60 movement through sitting to high output. And those are things like yoga and Pilates, Tai Chi, and martial arts. With bodywork, here's a couple tips and tools. I'm just going to see if I can, and we'll leave it here. I can't see the comments or questions, so if you have some, I'll answer those as soon as I'm done here, and I've only got a few more minutes to go. When it comes to bodywork and actually receiving bodywork or adding bodywork into your program, your health and wellness program, think prehab, not rehab. Of course, if you are injured, there's nothing better for your body than bodywork, as it is the #1 thing that's going to help with tissue repair, with actual manually bringing tissue back into its functional lines. And ultimately, for those who want to progress, we need to start acting proactively and treat body work like the preventative medicine that it is. Once tissue, when you feel pain in your body, you're in the latest stage of injury. Even if it's a subtle pain, if you actually are feeling physical pain, that in the stages of injury is the very latest stage. So the benefits of body work and yoga and Pilates are to create this highly elasticized, pliable, strong but stretchy, hydrated and connected fascial network that is assuming its natural or neutral shape, which means it's going to move effortlessly and fluidly any way that you take it. So regular body work is going to create that fascial freedom and health that is critical for you to avoid the injuries that can sometimes occur when you are asking those big repetitive movements of your body that you do if you're a climber, a runner, a skier, a weightlifter, etc. So in terms of the cadence, when it comes to body work, you know how bodies are. They like regular input. You need to brush your teeth pretty regularly, shower, food. The regenerative quality of the body is such that we need it to be regular. So in terms of cadence, I always recommend going anywhere from once a week to once every 6 weeks. With cadence, there's a couple considerations. Are you a simple or complex structure? A simple structure is a person who doesn't have, hasn't had any injuries or surgeries or pain or strain, right? So if you're feeling pretty good, you've never sprained your ankles, you've never had a surgery, your fascial network may be genetically or just inherently pretty healthy as is. If you are a complex structure, which most long-term athletes are, you maybe have asked more of your fascia and have some strains or tears or labrum issues, or you've broken a bone and had a surgical repair, or if you have any genetic deviations such as a scoliosis, those are places that would put you into the category of a complex structure, and complex structures are always going to benefit from a really regular cadence. Usually every 2 weeks is ideal and optimal for most big movers. After you've had body work for 3 to 4 months, you could totally move it back to a maintenance program where you're getting body work once every 6 weeks. If you're going to be more aggressive with your movement, and if you'd like to move well for a lifetime, consider taking it to every 2 weeks, something like that. When it comes to competition and big events, pre-event, it's great to get body work 1 to 3 days prior to your event, not the day of. There's some specific myofascial tension or entrained patterning that you've worked hard to create that we don't necessarily want to undo right before you go to move. Post-event, fascial stretch immediately. So that's some of the joint mobilizations and Thai massage or sports massage that you saw at the beginning. That's great to do immediately. And then 2 to 3 days later, get deep tissue or structural integration. Body work is great for post or pre-op. If you are going in for surgery, if you can get some body work prior to your surgery, you are literally increasing blood flow to every cell in your body. You are eliminating metabolic buildup and waste. You are decongesting your fascia, creating that smooth sliding glide that we want to see, meaning that you're going to go in healthier and come out the other end easier to repair. Post-op, you can get light local fascial release immediately. And if every person who needs an ACL or an MCL or a knee replacement could just get body work 3 to 4 times before and then 5 to 10 times after, you will cut your recovery time by weeks and months. You're helping stimulate that nerve regeneration, fascial regeneration. It's an incredible boost to help you get back on track quickly. In terms of the type of body work that I'm focusing on, here at Rock City Bodyworks, we offer deep tissue, structural integration, Thai massage, sports massage, and myofascial release. Those key words are what you're going to want to look for. These are the types of modalities that take everything I've shared with you today into consideration and are actually looking to make structural, lasting change to the way your fascial matrix aligns. Cupping and dry needling and active release are other great techniques. Cupping in particular is really useful because in the human body, I'm going to show you a tensegrity model. Unlike machines or man-made buildings, which are compression, they're just brick over brick over brick, and it's a compression structure. Human bodies are tensegrities, where we have tensional forces and compressional forces, creating this self-sustaining structure. And so decompression is really useful, and cupping provides that. In terms of finding a body worker, you want to get a good one. And a great way to do that is word of mouth. Check in with your movement community and see who they're seeing. It's always useful to ask your PT. If you have a good PT, they're also getting body work. And if you are just searching, you should Google those words above: MFR, myofascial release, deep tissue, etc. In this presentation, I've relied heavily on some premises from Anatomy Trains by Tom Myers. I highly recommend you check him out. Move Your DNA by Katie Bowman. She is a restorative biomechanist that helps us look at the movement ecology that's affecting you that you don't think is. And then some of our pictures of fascia are from Dr. Jean-Claude Goumertot, who is the only one he's taken some incredible photography or video of real fascia inside the body. So that wraps up my chatty portion. And I just want to check and see if we have any questions or comments. Okay. So it doesn't look like anybody has any questions about any of that. So given that I'm a body worker, I'm very tactile and hands-on, and I want people to really understand this. So when we look at fascia and the way it holds structure in your body, it wraps around muscles, in muscles, it holds things together, it holds things apart. We want to have this ability. So if my hand is the muscle and this is the fascial sheath around it, what body work is going to help do is this, where they can move and slide and glide separate from each other. Where you're going to feel pain is when there's a stuck part right here and the muscle goes to move and it can't right there. So it stretches, it moves in different directions. A couple other things that bodywork does, and then we're going to go do it, is fascial, sometimes stretching when you're in pain, it can come from too much tension or too much compression or too much slack. But when you have fascial tearing, if you had pizza dough or this nice substance here, you see how it gets thinner and thinner the wider apart I pull it? So oftentimes a fascial tear is caused by this, too much strain, and then you get this big hole. So stretching it is only going to actually make the tear bigger. And this is where with expert body work, we would actually want to pull the fascia back together like that, okay? I'm thinking primarily of like plantar fasciitis or tendinitis, all of the itises of the connective tissue, where people who have chronically been strengthening and utilizing their muscles in a certain manner and haven't really been stretching, go right into stretch, you're going to just strain that tissue even more. So it's counterintuitive, but oftentimes when something feels tight, it's not tight because it's short and needs to get elongated. It's tight because it's too long and needs to get shortened, or vice versa. It's too long and needs to shorten. So we have these oppositional things at play in the body. Just a couple more fun examples for you, and then we'll move on. So when I was talking about your hamstrings, things that sit for a long time, thermal regulation, or your ability to create heat internally, is very crucial. So for all of you who are exercising and moving, good for you. And then try to move more, because when you're sitting for over 90 minutes, you literally change state. If you're made of organic matter and you're mostly water, that water can change in viscosity from more fluid and liquid to more solid or more gel. So when you've been sitting in a chair for a long, long time, your collagen could, or your fascia could start to look like this, where if I want to put movement between these fake sheaths of fascia and then pull it apart, it kind of moves slow to stretch it apart, okay? But ideally, it's more like this, where friction from moving makes it very glidable and slidable, and the whole thing can just stretch apart really easily. You've got a lot of slide and glide in there, and a lot of olive oil on my hands. Awesome. The last thing I want to show you is about tensegrity. So the old world model of my bones are my structure, I'm a compression system built on blocks, one on top of another, and then these little levers pull me, is not true or real. What is real is that your bones float in a myofascial network, okay? And that myofascial matrix, your fascia, provides both structure and shape. It's global, not local. So people come in, and if you have the beauty of a tensegrity, it's got compressional and tensional forces. When I move one part, all parts move. Okay, so it works globally. Any movement you make in your body affects every part of your body. When people come in and they're like, right here, down here is where I feel pain, you have to look and see that that one point of impact is shifting the whole shape. So it's great that you're a tensegrity, because what this means is on hard impact, strain is distributed globally instead of locally. So we can withstand a lot more shock absorption, a lot more movement. And what it means for treatment, though, is that localized treatment where we're just fixing your elbow or your knee and doing a few corrective exercises for that one area without taking into consideration the way it's affected your whole body is a little antiquated and is not going to generate the fast fluidity and freedom to move well that most of you, and myself included, want to maintain over time. Okay, so we've got a couple questions here. Oh, collagen supplementation and bodywork. That's a great question. We're learning so much about collagen and what it can do for the body. The thing about fascia is it's very full of collagen. A lot of your connective tissue is primarily collagen, but there's other aspects that are more extracellular matrix, they're interstitial fluid. So we want different levels of viscosity in different areas. Things like tendons, we would like to have some great type 1 collagen that make them really strong. If you are supplementing with collagen, which could be really useful for your fascia, a good time to do it is going to be about an hour before you receive bodywork or exercise, because especially with bodywork, we're going to be opening the channels of connectivity and allowing the hydration that you drink in or the nutrition that you drink in to expand out into some of those areas of your body that are dehydrated from lack of movement. So one thing a lot of people don't know is that just drinking water doesn't make you hydrated. Where you most need hydration are the areas of your body that are disconnected from the fascial network because they're compressed and they haven't been moving and they become thick and there's not a lot of vasculation and therefore not a lot of blood flow. So hopefully that answers that one. Oh yeah, there's bodywork. I'm talking specifically about hand-on manual manipulation. Of course, there's other things that are great for your fascia, like foam rolling or other tools. There's tons of that coming out on the market. I'm gonna say it's useful to do that with an expert. What IT bands? IT bands are actually already under a lot of compression and they kind of get glued to your lateral quads. So a lot of people push firmer on their IT bands, which is only exacerbating that compression where the IT band can't move freely from the quad. And so for IT bands, I wouldn't be working directly on the IT band. I'd be working above and below, and I'd probably be using a technique I'll show you here, which is to lift it up off the muscle, which is making space or decompressing. So you can take classes or spend time with an expert. Yeah, you can always do myofascial rolling at home, but it's really great. Adhesion, is an adhesion in the fascia or the muscle, or can it be both? Yes, it's in your muscle and it's in your fascia because your fascia weaves between not only around the full muscle, but this fascial wrapping, like the orange I showed you at the beginning, it goes all the way through to every single cell. So if you took an orange and peeled it apart into the little segments and you popped that open, every piece of pulp would also be wrapped in fascia. So you can have an adhesion in different aspects of your musculature. Trigger points are going to be deep within a muscle and they're really small. So more like a muscle fiber that's encased in fascia, okay? Then there's fascia outside of muscles. Like you could have tight fascia around your whole bicep. So basically the answer is an adhesion can be in any part of your fascial matrix, your muscle or your fascia. When we're talking about adhesion though, in terms of the location of it, whether it's in the belly of the muscle or in the external wrapping of the fascia, almost always that adhesion is in the fascial connectivity of it. Okay, Craig, 49, never really heard of this stuff, super active both at work and play, currently climbing hard, previously running and cycling. How would the first 3 activities affect fascia? What should I do as a first step? So the first thing everybody should do is more natural movement. Natural movement are movement that the human body has been evolved to do over its history of time on the planet. Before we had chairs, we were squatting, we were kneeling. There are issues of the tissue that are cultural. In other countries where they don't sit on chairs, rather they floor sit, they do not have the hip degenerational issues that we have here in this country. The more you can move, the better. So you could change your home environment. The first thing you could do is just change your home environment. Instead of having everything really close and handy, move things far apart, make it so you have to bend down, stand up, change the way you sit. In our house, we don't have backs on our chairs, so we use more core. Sit on the floor, change the level of things in your house. A great first step is body work. Part of yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, and bodywork are some of the fast tracks to the benefits that you need to rehydrate your fascia. And what I find a lot with athletic people is you're already using a lot of your time for movement that you love. It's challenging for me to get my big athletes into my yoga and Pilates class. It's not hard to get them onto the table for bodywork. And bodywork is also going to work not only superficially, but deep into the ground layer. So bodywork. Percussive devices be used to help with bodywork. Yes, there's so many cool tools on the market, and a Theragun or some kind of roller or the Theracane, all these things are really useful, and doing it is better than not doing it. I think my call to action here is that my point about if you're only pushing on where it hurts and you're not looking holistically at the full meridian and where there's too much slack or too much tension, or is this under compression, and dissolving it holistically, you're only going to be giving yourself just relief of current systems. And what I'm suggesting you could do if you actually got on the table and had a 60 or 90-minute session is start to eliminate those chronic pains from your life so that you can be a runner who never has a low back pain. But yes, those tools can be really, really useful. Let's see. Okay, any other questions here? Got it. Cool. All right, thank you everybody. What we're gonna do now with our last little bit, you're welcome to stay on. If you've gotta go, no big deal, but I want to show you, I'm gonna work you through some hands-on body work. The person who asked about percussive tools and when we talked about foam rollers, your fascia is the most highly innervated tissue in your body. So when a human touches a human, there's this incredible connection of millions of nerves that are stimulating not just the mechanical aspects of your tissue, but also stimulating all of your other senses that are atrophying as we spend less time needing to regulate. So even when your own hand touches your own body, we're going to get a much more detailed and rich sensory input, because put your hands on your chest right here and feel, okay? If you were using a foam roller, a ball, or a percussive tool, you wouldn't be noticing the depth, the nature of your tissue the way you are with your fingers. So if you use your own hands to do some body work on yourself, it literally strengthens that brain-body connect and builds what we call neuromyel pathways. So it increases your balance, your coordination, and your capacity to sense shift, where you can move your body better and avoid injury. So we are going to do a little bit of work on your own body, and you're just going to take your little pincer fingers like this and grab your sternocleidomastoid. This is this big muscle right here on the side of your neck. It's usually more visible in dudes. So just grab it. And you see, I'm a good example. My fascia is really well cared for. So like what you want to be able to do with tissue is pick it up and move it. And if you can't even pick it up, or it feels like a rope or beef jerky, it's a good indication that that tissue needs some manipulation. So grab this muscle and then just kind of tilt your head a little bit side to side. Good. And if you can work your hands down towards the bottom connection. So this is what we would call an active release, where we're using external pressure and then we're moving the muscle as we're working it. Nice job. I'm going to do a little bit of a schmear. So I want you to take your fist and press it into the side of your neck and then pull back against your skin. So you're smearing your hand back towards the back of your neck. So you'll see that there's some redness, a good sign of circulation. Good, nice work. And then you can take your fingers and slide them up to right behind your ear, okay? And you'll find the base of your skull. And just with 2 fingers, I want you to kind of move around. We're gonna use cross fiber, like brushing your teeth. You wanna move it in every single direction. The beauty of these myofascial meridians and the fact that it is connected globally is that we can work locally and make huge shifts to the whole system. So a little goes a long way and a lot goes even further. So let's get your sternocleidomastoid on the other side. You're just gonna grab it and pull. Deep breaths as you do this. The other thing I like about things like this is it's immediate and it's pretty sustainable. It's totally human powered. You don't need any tools. So the accessibility of this is high, particularly for those people for whom time and financial resource are limited and getting in on someone's table is hard to make a priority. You can still grab, pull, and twist, okay? And then you're gonna take your fist, bring it into the side of your neck. Push in pretty firmly, and then press back, slow and steady. I want you to notice your breath, your body, and this kinesthetic awareness, this sensory stimulation that we're feeding your body. You'll notice it's very calming and soothing. Bodywork activates your parasympathetic nervous system and brings you out of fight and flight and into rest and digest. Good. You're going to take those 2 fingers and slide them up the side of your head, right behind your ear, and then just do some little rubs side to side, up and down, and all around. Taking deep breaths as you go. Here is go get bodywork. Let someone else work on you. 60 to 90 minutes of bodywork regularly is a fast track for high performance for a lifetime, to become someone who can move well over age. You know, deterioration and falling apart is not tethered to age. Go look at the Amazon tribes, go look at hunter-gatherers. You do not need to fall apart as you age. It's actually about the health of your tissue, and you can make that happen at any age or stage. You're now gonna bring your fingertips and push it right in underneath your collarbone. We're just gonna go side to side. So these myofascial meridians connect really tons of muscles through multiple joints and through connected tissue, and they anchor in around bony prominences like your collarbone. So we can do a little localized work to make global or systemic shift. Good. And then press your fingers in. And if you can't push in very far, that's super dehydrated tissue that needs some hydration. And we make that by pushing. So press in. And then I want you to pull your fingers down and away as you lift your neck up. And then we'll do that again. So you can see the effect of this happening, lots of cool indications of deep and superficial circulation and hydration. So anchor in, I'm gonna pull down and spread wide as I lift up and turn my head from side to side. And you'll feel the fascial connections, because the fact that I can hook into my fascia here, push and pull down and lift my head up and feel tension in the top of my chin shows you that connectivity of these bands of tissue. Good. Take a deep breath. You should be able to breathe a lot easier. And we're going to move over to your deltoids. Your deltoids are hard to stretch. They're hard to access with bodywork, kind of this horseshoe muscle that wraps around here. So when we look at shoulder pain and neck and all the connectivity here, it's really nice to decompress some of those flatter, wider muscles that pushing on them, like pushing on your IT band, you know, not going to do much new for it. So we'll do this myofascial release tactic called skin rolling. So I want you to pick up your skin and lift it up. And you know, I'm pretty healthy, I'm pretty hydrated. My fascia can lift right up. And then I want you to roll it. So my thumb is pressing in and I'm just kind of pressing that back, rolling through my fascia. If you feel signs of myofascial release are going to be hydration. So you might suddenly have more saliva in your mouth, tears, hot flashes, sweating, all signs of myofascial release. Other sensations could be a feeling of zinginess as we get that neuroconnectivity going. And if you have dense, thick, this kind of fascia, this thick fascia that we're breaking apart, it's fine if it hurts. You just want to take some deep breaths. Good. Okay. So we've worked one, not the other, and I want you to just roll your shoulder and move your arm a little. This is where we're building some biofeedback or proprioceptive awareness. Do the other side. And just notice if you can feel more mobility or more slide and glide on the side that you worked. And then let's come over to the other side. You're going to pick up the skin if you can and lift it up. So this is skin rolling, and this technique you can do anywhere on the body, and it's really good on parts of the body that are flat or hard to lift or work on. Like you could roll your abs by picking up the tissue of your abdomen, your forearms, your IT bands. Awesome work. And the other reason for a 60 to 90 minute session is when we look at neurology and fascial pliability, fascia responds to immersions. So immersion, meaning a 60 to 90 minute continuous myofascial release, is going to alter your fascial patterns more comprehensively and systemically and longer lasting than a few minutes here or there. However, anything is better than nothing, right? So rather than a lot, a little, or rather than a little, a lot, you know, a lot, a little is what you do with bodywork. Cool. Good. Ooh, and did you hear that little crack? So bones float in soft tissue. And when it comes to resetting joints, soft tissue is what holds the structure. Bones don't even touch. So when you release soft tissue, you can get natural joint resets, okay? So let's go down into your forearms. And I want you to first just take your fingers and feel through your forearms. Mine are probably more like a climber's, where you can feel those taut, thick band that your fingers rolling over right here. This is a really this is a flexor that does tons of repetitive movement. And so it's kind of dehydrated. So you're going to take your thumb and you're going to press in. And then I just want you to move your fingers like that. Okay. So you can hook in, push down, and pull your thumb back towards your elbow while you move your fingers up and down. And then in terms of biomechanics, like, again, body work is better to get than to give to yourself. Okay, nice work. So you can do that down every flexor and extensor in your forearms. And then let's just get a little fascial rolling here. Lifting it up. Awesome job. So again, just get a sense. The other sign of myofascial release is that you'll literally be lighter and feel lighter. So it spreads, it's like taking water that's frozen and then turning it into liquid. It spreads apart and it's actually lighter in density than a frozen ice cube, right? So effective myofascial release is that you should feel more spacious and literally lighter on that arm. Let's go to the other arm. We're going to do your diaphragm, a little iliacus or psoas work, and then I'll finish out with some leg work. Okay. So I like to work holistically always, globally, where we're touching or releasing multiple aspects of your body. It's fine to go get really localized work, like just work on my neck. However, it doesn't reset or retone or rebalance an entire meridian. And when you're working with these big meridians, you know, with a rope system, with climbing, you want some tension and some slack in the right places at the right time. So that's where this kind of part-based approach, let's get that glute strong, let's activate that knee. If you're not looking holistically at all of the tissue that connects to that aspect and what's happening there, you're going to miss some of the comprehensive benefits. Pick up your skin and move it around. And everybody needs this kind of work. I'm doing the arm lines that go along with the forward head position that we all get from looking at screens, texting, typing, and driving. So this is for everybody. It's kind of nice to have, you know, a professional tell you to do this because it seems really simple and you might blow it off if you saw it on a YouTube video. But this is decompression, like to lift your skin up like this and pull it away creates a pressure and a fluid vacuum that then must be filled. So if you want to increase circulation or hydration or flow, lifting up and then moving is going to make big change happen in terms of the things that cells need to survive or to thrive, which is a lot of waste removal, a lot of nutrient input. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is work with your diaphragm. So I want you to find your ribs. Just bring this down a little bit. And you're just going to take your little finger hooks, okay? This is where a percussive gun right here would probably not be too good, and a theracane. You know, there's some areas of your body that you need a really sensitive tool to work safely. So what I want you to do is just bring your fingertips under your ribs and just kind of roll in and out, side to side, and then press in a little bit. So I'm pressing my fingers in and down like this. And the first round, this is probably could be very tight on many of you. So your diaphragm links through your front line, your front meridian. Your diaphragm links directly into your psoas, directly into your QL, your low back muscle, and from there directly into your quad. So with sitting and that moving of a rib cage down, a collapsed diaphragm, particularly for people who need a lot of oxygen for running, climbing, and all your big athletic endeavors, you want to have some malleability underneath or around your strong musculature. So you're going to work your fingers all the way out to those floating or false ribs, and then bring it all the way back in. And as you do this, you may find the second round you're able to push in further or pull away. Good. You do 1 or 2 more rounds. Awesome. We're going to take those same hooks and now we're just going to come onto your ASIS or those hip points that you can feel right here. And you're literally going to just work around them and then work in. Okay. So you're digging in and then going up and down, and you're just working into, this is your iliopsoas and the fascial connections. Good hip flexor work, okay? So you're just pressing in, going down and in like this, and then rolling side to side. A good sign that you might need some myofascial release is if you can't even dig in. So think about filet mignon or raw beef. Really healthy muscle and fascial tissue is soft to the touch. It kind of bounces back like that. It's more squishy, it moves around and it kind of comes back. So if you push on it, it rebounds, it goes in and comes out. You know, beef jerky, if you push on it and it doesn't move, that's a sign that your fascia is really dehydrated and your muscles are getting to be more like beef jerky, and those things don't sustain force well, right? They break, they fray, they tear. But really healthy fascia and muscle, just when pressure is applied, it just rebounds, okay? So we're building all that back in here. Awesome work. Now you're gonna take your thumbs, and if you have your hands on your hips, you're gonna come right here, and we're just gonna start some hip thumb presses right into these connected points of your IT band in the tensor fasciae lata muscles, and then you can use your knuckles like this, okay? So you could take movement breaks or bodywork breaks throughout the day and just stand up and give yourself a little myofascial release. And you can work that all the way around the paddle of your sacrum or the back of your hips. Good. And then I'm going to finish up now that that's loosened up with these deep thumb compressions. So this type of finger compression you'll find a lot in shiatsu or Thai massage, or what in the West we like to call fascial stretching or sports massage, because we're learning how to better honor source and we're just learning how to better honor source. Okay, good. So I'm going to sit down on this table here. One more thing you can do for your psoas is you can take your curled up fingers right into the sides and then round over it. And if it feels like someone's punching you in the stomach, you are. And so round over it, and then I'm moving my fingers up and down like this. So remember that movement is a lot bigger than exercise, and so many people suffer from constipation or irritable bowel syndrome and all of these diseases of captivity or lack of movement, where we actually just need more push, press, and squish of the cellular matrix deep within. So this is really good for all of the fascial sheaths that hold your organs in place. Good. So you can take a seat wherever you'd like. And then I want you to bring your elbow and take your leg out to the side. And you can sit cross-legged or have your leg on top of the other. But you're just gonna work your adductors or your inner thigh. And I'm gonna push and press. So you can use your forearm a little bit like a rolling pin, just pushing and pressing your way through. So here at Rock Steady Bodyworks, we have a lot of myofascial classes. We have one called Grounded, where we do an hour of self-guided myofascial release like this. And I know that there's this big explosion of fascial awareness. So there's a lot of new tools you can find, be it a bodywork session on the table or a class like that. As you go, so as you push and press, you're going to notice, and this is why it's so useful to do it to your own cells, your own self, is you'll actually see how quickly you can create some pliability or access. So things start off a little stiff and stuck, and then the more you work, the deeper you're able to press, and the more pliability you create. Good. Now that you've done that, you're going to take that same elbow and work down your lower shin. So I want you to find your shin bone, your tibia, and you're going to be right to the inside of it, and you're using your elbow and you're rocking in and off. Okay? We're going to go all the way down and all the way back up. Good. Then for your ankle and for your knee, friction. So just take your fist and just go friction on either side of your knee. So for tendons that aren't very vasculated, friction, adding energy into a system, creates heat. Heat melts things. It turns your jelly collagen into a more liquid form of it. Good. So this should feel really, really good. And then you can do the same down at your ankles. Little cross fiber friction. So all of these tendinous areas, friction is going to feel really good and make a lot of good fascial shift quickly. Okay. So we'll do the other side. You're going to take that roller pin forearm and that awesome pointy elbow and just start pushing and pressing through your adductors. We'll do quads and calves and then we'll be done. I've got about 2 more minutes, so if you guys have to run, you can always get the recording of this. If you can stay, I'll get your quads and your calves. So we've worked pretty much all the front body meridians. So one thing with self massages, you can get your QL through the deep front line. So you can work your back through your neck and your diaphragm and your psoas like we have. Okay, then you're gonna take the elbow and find your shin bone or your tibia. You're gonna come to the inside of it and right along the shin bone, I'm just gonna rock forward and back. These little presses up and down. Deep breath. You may notice it's really different one side to the other. Good. Let's go ahead and friction out your knee. Anytime you have a tendinitis or ligament areas, joints love heat. Okay, and then friction the ankle. Okay, so for your quad or for your calves, you can come down onto the floor, or you could be on the floor, or you could be on whatever surface you want to be. What you're going to do though is you're going to take your opposite kneecap and you're going to use that to push into your calf. Okay, we're going to start up proximal, so close to the knee, and work distal down towards the ankle. And you're working your kneecap and you're pushing into your calf. And again, the beauty of self body work, where you're using your own cells to manipulate your own cells, is this is deep neurostimulation. So we're providing your deprived sensory system that is not getting enough exposure to variable terrain underfoot, variable sounds from the natural world, too many black screens, right? So the atrophy that the modern world can create, we're bringing back by giving you this rich, deep sensory experience where your kneecap, all of the nerve endings in your kneecap are now getting quite aware of the shape, the held tension in the opposite calf, yeah? And so that helps your body move your body and know what movement you can and cannot do. Good. So you're working all the way down towards your ankle, and then we'll switch sides. So you can bring opposite knee. Good. And when you get really nice pliable tissue, that's where you can push pretty firmly and get really deep in there. So you're going to work through, I like to go medial, lateral, and central, so the inside, outside, and middle point, and then go down an inch or two lower and do the same. So the beauty of working here is if you're going to work your calves, you're going to be causing some space to occur in the entire back line from your plantar fascia, through your hamstrings, your erectors, through your neck to the crown of your head. Pretty cool. Awesome. Okay, last bit, another bodywork technique that's really useful. You could do the same thing, rolling out your quads with your own forearm and elbow. And if you're, if you are a climber or one of our, some of our awesome clients do some pretty amazing things. And if you're gonna drive 6 hours to the desert and run 50 miles and then drive home, this might be a really accessible tool to roll out your quads while you're going. And then let's switch sides. Whew. When you get to the tops of your kneecaps, right above your kneecaps, we're going to come back into that almost finger toothbrush. And I want you to just go side to side, up and down. So this is giving some proprioceptive stimulation, and we're working with specific neuroreceptors, your Golgi tendon organs and your spindle cells, in your fascia and your musculature that helps your body know how much slack or tension to hold. So, you know, your muscle can have a neutral length, it can be overstretched, it can be overshortened, and this pressure helps it come back to neutral. And you're pushing on millions of cells, right, as you work through this work. So you're getting this whole body reset that you can't get unless you do body work. So no matter how much hydration you have, no matter what your nutrition program is, no matter what your strength or stretch program is, if you're not focused on fascial hydration and movement, you're going to lose that connectivity and pliability. Let's go to the other side. All right, we're going to work through this. We are on the last bit. As you take some deep breaths, notice your body and how you feel. If perhaps your mood has shifted as we've alleviated tension from your tissues. All right. Thank you guys so much for attending this session. Thank you to Gnarly for providing this opportunity. Go get a great body worker. If you have any questions or want to hit me up, I'm at Rock City Bodyworks. Move well, have fun, and have a great night. Thank you.